The stories spread across the stars for over 500 years. Tales of a species called humans who could endure pain that would kill others, who could adapt to any environment, and who fought with a fury that made even the bravest warriors tremble. Most species in the Galactic Coalition believed these were just myths, scary bedtime stories to tell children, or exaggerated accounts of some long-extinct race. "Humans aren't real," said Sorla, a blue-skinned Araxian diplomat, as she walked the curved hallways of the Coalition's central space station. "They're like the dragons in ancient Earth stories. A symbol, nothing more." Her companion, a reptilian vector named Cryon, nodded. "The stories say they could survive in almost any atmosphere for short periods, that they could heal from wounds that would kill any of our kind. Clearly impossible." While they discussed old legends, alarm sirens suddenly blared across the station. Red emergency lights flashed along the corridors. Both diplomats rushed to the command center where dozens of Coalition officials from 12 different species gathered around holographic displays. "Unknown vessels approaching from Sector 7, announced the station commander, a tall insectoid being. "They match no known design patterns in our database." On the main screen, 20 sleek ships moved in perfect formation. Their hulls were dark gray with blue lights pulsing along their sides. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "They're hailing us," said a communications officer. "Put it through," ordered the commander. The screen flickered, and everyone in the room gasped. The being on the screen looked like no species they had ever seen. It had no scales, no tentacles, no exoskeleton. Its skin was a light brown color, with short dark hair on top of its head. Its face had 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth arranged in a way that seemed both alien and oddly familiar from ancient artwork. "This is Commander Liz Carter of the Earth Fleet vessel Dauntless," the being said in perfect galactic standard. "On behalf of humanity, I extend greetings to the Galactic Coalition." Silence filled the command center. Sorla grabbed Cryon's arm so tightly he winced. "It can't be," whispered Cryon. "They're supposed to be myths." The station commander stepped forward. "This is Station Commander Zelk. We thought humans were just legends." The human female on the screen smiled. "I assure you, we are quite real, Commander Zelk. We've been observing from the edges of known space for some time. Recent events have prompted us to make direct contact." "What events?" asked Zelk. "The Void Hegemony is on the move," said Commander Carter. "Our intelligence suggests they plan to attack Coalition space within the month. We've come to offer our assistance." Murmurs spread through the command center. The Void Hegemony was a growing threat, a group of aggressive species from the galactic core who had been expanding their territory through force. "Why would you help us?" asked Sorla, stepping forward. "We've never even met your kind before." The human's expression grew serious. "Many centuries ago, when humans first ventured beyond our solar system, several Coalition species helped us survive. We have long memories, and we repay our debts." Back on the Dauntless, Commander Carter ended the transmission and turned to her second-in-command, a tall man with dark skin named Ben Rogers. "They reacted exactly as Admiral Hill predicted," she said. "Complete shock." Ben nodded. "The isolation protocol served its purpose. No one remembers the truth about us anymore, just distorted legends." "Prepare the diplomatic team," ordered Liz, "and alert the rest of the fleet to stand by. Once the Coalition sees what we can really do, they'll understand why their ancestors wrote those stories about us." Ben looked out at the stars through the ship's viewport. "Let's hope they're ready for the real thing. Legends have a way of disappointing when they come to life." Liz smiled. "Not this time, Ben. Not this time." Meanwhile, at the edge of Coalition space, a massive fleet of Earth vessels waited in stealth mode, hidden from all sensors. Humanity had returned to the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again. 3 days after the Dauntless made contact, a small shuttle departed from the human ship. Inside were 2 humans. Alan Gordon, a tall man with graying hair and diplomatic credentials, and Kelly Wright, a younger woman with red hair who specialized in communications. They approached the Coalition space station with a simple mission: to build trust before the rest of the human fleet revealed itself. The docking bay of the station was filled with representatives from all 12 Coalition species. Many recorded the humans with various devices. Some whispered prayers. Others simply stared in disbelief. Alan and Kelly stepped off their shuttle and removed their helmets. The station's air was compatible with human lungs, though it smelled like mint and metal to them. On behalf of Earth and all human colonies, we thank you for your welcome, Alan said with a small bow. High Counselor Vernick of the Araxians stepped forward. He was tall and slender with blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. The Firebringers return, he said, using an ancient term for humans found in Araxian religious texts. Our ancestors spoke of your kind, though few believed. Kelly smiled. We've been away for a long time, focusing on our own development. But we've always kept watch. A reptilian vector scientist named Morrow approached Kelly with a scanning device. May I? He asked. When Kelly nodded, he scanned her and looked at the results with wide eyes. Incredible. Your cellular structure is unlike anything in our records, so adaptive. The Coalition representatives led the humans to a large meeting chamber. Food and drinks from various worlds were set out to welcome them. Alan and Kelly noticed the curious stares as they sampled items from the buffet. Should you be eating that? Asked Thorla, watching Kelly eat a fruit from the Vectar homeworld. That contains compounds toxic to most species. Kelly shrugged. Human digestive systems can handle a wide variety of foods. It's one of our adaptations. As the formal meeting began, a warning alarm sounded. The station's sensors had detected void hegemony scout ships at the edge of the system. Everyone rushed to the command center. This is unusual, said Commander Zelk. They're being more bold than ever before. Ellen stepped forward. May I contact my ship? When given permission, he used his communicator. Commander Carter, we have hegemony scouts in the system. It might be time for a small demonstration. Within minutes, the Dauntless moved from its holding position. Its engines glowed bright blue as it accelerated toward the intruders at speeds that made the Coalition officers gasp. The human ship intercepted the 3 hegemony scouts before they could react. This is Commander Liz Carter of Earth Fleet. You are in Coalition space without permission. Withdraw immediately. The scouts ignored the warning and prepared to fire. The Dauntless moved with impossible agility for a ship its size, evading their attacks while firing precision shots that disabled the scouts' engines without destroying the vessels. Back on the station, the Coalition representatives watched in amazement. Such control, whispered Commander Zelk. They could have destroyed those ships, but they only disabled them. Elen nodded. Humans prefer to avoid unnecessary killing when possible. Those crew members will return to the hegemony with a message about what they encountered. The meeting continued late into the night. Kelly remained alert and engaged despite having been awake for over 50 hours, another fact that amazed the Coalition species. Don't you need sleep? Asked Thorla. Humans can go without sleep for short periods when necessary, Kelly explained. These discussions are too important to pause. As the second day of talks began, more humans arrived on the station. Some brought technology to share, others came to learn about Coalition species and cultures. Each new human that arrived showed different traits and abilities that added to the growing realization among the Coalition members. The legends hadn't exaggerated human capabilities. If anything, they had understated them. And still, the main human fleet remained hidden, waiting for the moment when the full might of humanity would need to be revealed. 1 week after the first humans arrived at the station, the Coalition leaders received shocking news. Void hegemony forces had destroyed 3 border outposts. This was not just a scouting mission. It was the beginning of a full invasion. Captain Jack Nelson stood on the bridge of the battleship Invincible, at the edge of Coalition space. His ship was just one of 50 human vessels that had gathered, still hidden from both Coalition and hegemony sensors. Admiral Hill's orders have arrived. said his second-in-command, a woman named Susan Lee. "We are authorized to reveal the fleet and engage the hegemony forces." Jack nodded. "Send the signal to all ships. Stealth systems deactivate in 30 seconds. Weapons ready, but hold fire until my command." Across 50 ships, human crews prepared for battle. Unlike the coalition species who had become dependent on AI systems, humans still believed in the value of human judgment in combat situations. Meanwhile, on the coalition station, engineer Diane Peters worked with 2 alien scientists named Trill and Zex. Diane was trying to improve the station's defensive shields using a combination of human and coalition technology. "This shouldn't work," said Trill, a small furry being with 6 limbs. "The energy patterns are incompatible." Diane smiled as she connected 2 devices that were never designed to work together. Humans have a saying: "There's more than one way to skin a cat." Zex, who resembled a tall blue humanoid with gills, looked confused. "You remove skin from your pets." "It's just an expression," Diane explained. "It means there are multiple ways to solve a problem." She made one final adjustment, and the combined shield generator hummed to life. The display showed shield strength had increased by 300%. "Impossible," gasped Trill. "How did you think of this solution?" "Lateral thinking," said Diane. "Humans are good at seeing unusual connections between things." The station's alarm sounded again, but this time it was different. This was the highest level alert. "All personnel to battle stations. Hegemony warships have entered the system. This is not a drill." In the command center, Alan and Kelly joined the coalition leaders. The main screen showed 20 hegemony battleships approaching. "Our defenses cannot stop that many ships," said Commander Zelk, his voice filled with despair. Alan touched his communicator. "Now would be a good time, Captain Nelson." On the screen, space seemed to ripple. Suddenly, 50 human ships appeared out of nowhere, their stealth systems deactivated. They formed a protective barrier between the station and the approaching hegemony fleet. "What is this?" gasped Xorla. "Where did they come from?" "The human fleet has been here all along," Kelly explained, "waiting and watching." The hegemony ships slowed their approach, clearly surprised by the sudden appearance of so many unknown vessels. Captain Nelson's voice came through the station's communication system. "This is Captain Jack Nelson of the Earth Fleet. Hegemony vessels, you are entering protected space. Withdraw immediately, or we will be forced to take defensive action." The hegemony responded by firing their weapons. The human ships moved with incredible coordination, their shields absorbing the attack. "All ships, engage," ordered Captain Nelson. "Disable their weapons and engines. Minimal casualties if possible." The human fleet surged forward. Their ships moved in ways that defied the standard tactics both the coalition and hegemony had used for centuries. They attacked from multiple angles simultaneously, using the stars and nearby asteroids for cover. Back on the station, the coalition species watched in awe as the human fleet engaged the hegemony. "They fight like nothing I've ever seen," whispered Commander Zelk. "Humans developed warfare differently," Alan explained. "Each of our ships operates both as part of the whole and independently. Our captains are trained to make decisions on their own if needed." Within 20 minutes, half the hegemony ships were disabled. The others began to retreat. "They're running," said Xorla in disbelief. Kelly nodded. "And they'll tell others what they saw here today." The legend of humanity was no longer just a story. It was a reality that was about to change the galaxy forever. News of the human fleet's victory spread quickly across coalition space, but the hegemony was not defeated. They were regrouping, gathering more ships, and planning their next attack. 3 days after the first battle, reports came in that the hegemony had launched a surprise attack on Starpoint Alpha, a major coalition outpost near the border. The outpost's defenses were overwhelmed, and they sent out an urgent distress call. "We need to respond immediately," Commander Liz Carter told the Coalition Council. Starpoint Alpha is strategically important. If it falls, 3 coalition worlds will be exposed to attack. High Counselor Vernick looked troubled. Our nearest defense fleet is 2 days away. By then, Starpoint Alpha will be lost. Liz smiled. Human ships can get there much faster. Captain Nelson's battle group is already on the move. The Invincible led 5 human battleships towards Starpoint Alpha at speeds that the coalition ships could not match. They arrived in just 6 hours, finding the outposts surrounded by 30 hegemony vessels. The coalition defenders were nearly defeated. All ships, Combat Formation Delta, ordered Captain Nelson. Target the hegemony command ships first, and prep the drop ships. Major Rodriguez, get your Marines ready. Major Frank Rodriguez was a compact, muscular man who led the human Marine forces. He gathered his troops in the Invincible's launch bay. Listen up. The people at that outpost have never seen humans in combat before. Let's show them why their ancestors told stories about us. The human ships punched through the hegemony blockade, creating an opening for the dropships. As they approached the outpost, hegemony ground forces were already breaking through the main entrance. The dropships landed, and human Marines in powered combat armor rushed out. The coalition defenders watched in amazement as the humans moved with incredible speed and strength. Earth's gravity was higher than most inhabited worlds, giving humans natural advantages in lower gravity environments. Major Rodriguez led the charge, leaping over a barricade that would have required climbing gear for coalition species. He fired his weapon with one hand while throwing a coalition soldier to safety with the other. Fall back and regroup, he ordered both human and coalition forces. We'll hold this position. In space, the battle was equally intense. The hegemony had numbers, but the human ships had superior technology and tactics. Captain Nelson coordinated with Commander Carter aboard the Dauntless, executing complex maneuvers that confused the enemy. When the hegemony forces jammed communications, the human ships continued fighting effectively. Each captain made decisions independently, following the overall battle plan but adapting to changing conditions. How do they coordinate without constant communication? Asked a coalition officer watching from Starpoint Alpha's command center. Humans don't need hive mind tactics, explained Kelly Wright, who had come to the outpost as an observer. We train to think for ourselves while working toward common goals. On the ground, Major Rodriguez's Marines had pushed the hegemony forces back to the outpost's perimeter. One young Marine named Eric Baker was injured by enemy fire but continued fighting, protecting a group of coalition civilians. You're hurt, said one of the civilians, a young Araxian. How can you still fight? Eric winced but kept firing. Human bodies are pretty good at keeping going when we need to. I'll rest later. After 3 hours of intense fighting, the tide turned decisively. The hegemony forces retreated, leaving behind damaged ships and equipment. Coalition forces cheered as the human ships drove the last enemy vessels from the system. In the outpost's medical center, Dr. Amy Johnson treated both human and alien wounded. The coalition medical staff watched in fascination as she used advanced techniques to save lives that their methods could not have helped. Your medical science is centuries ahead of ours, said the chief coalition doctor. Amy shook her head. Not centuries. We just took a different path. Humans have always been good at healing because we've had so much practice patching ourselves up after fights. As the coalition forces celebrated their survival, word of the battle spread. The humans were no longer just returning legends. They were saviors. The victories at the coalition station and Starpoint Alpha were important, but the hegemony was still a major threat. Their main forces were gathering for what intelligence suggested would be a massive attack on key coalition worlds. 2 weeks after the battle at Starpoint Alpha, Admiral Julie Ross arrived with reinforcements from Earth. She brought 3 massive ships unlike anything the Coalition had ever seen. They were Titan-class dreadnoughts, the most powerful vessels in the human fleet. Those ships are enormous, said Sorla as she watched them dock near the Coalition station. Each one is the size of a small moon. Titan-class ships are our heavy hitters, explained Alan. They're rare and powerful. Earth only sends them when the situation is truly serious. On board the lead dreadnought, named Everest, Admiral Ross met with coalition leaders and human commanders. She was a tall woman with gray hair and eyes that showed both wisdom and determination. The hegemony is gathering its forces at Nexus Point, she told them, pointing to a star map. Our intelligence suggests they will launch their main attack from there within 5 days. We need to strike first. High Counselor Vernick looked concerned. Nexus Point is heavily defended. The hegemony has fortified it for years. That's why they don't expect us to attack it, said Admiral Ross with a smile. Sometimes the most dangerous path is the safest, precisely because no one thinks you'll take it. The plan was set. The combined human and coalition fleet would attack Nexus Point directly. It was risky, but if successful, it would strike a decisive blow against the hegemony. As the fleet prepared, Lieutenant Greg Miller worked with a team of coalition engineers to upgrade their ships with human defensive technology. During a break, a group of hegemony prisoners who had been captured in previous battles were being transported past them. One prisoner broke free and lunged at a young coalition engineer. Greg moved with shocking speed, placing himself between the attacker and the engineer. His face changed from calm to furious in an instant as he subdued the prisoner with bare hands. The coalition species watched in awe at both his speed and the intensity of his protective rage. Are all humans capable of such fury? Asked Zex later. We feel emotions strongly, Greg explained, now calm again. Especially when protecting others. It's part of who we are. The day of the attack came. The combined fleet jumped into the Nexus Point system, led by the 3 human dreadnoughts. The hegemony forces were surprised, but quickly responded with hundreds of ships of their own. All vessels, engage according to plan, ordered Admiral Ross from the Everest. Coalition ships focus on the smaller enemy vessels. Dreadnoughts will target their main battle stations. The Titan-class ships moved forward, their advanced shields easily absorbing enemy fire. Then they revealed their main weapons. Beams of energy unlike anything the coalition or hegemony had ever seen cut through space, disabling enemy ships with surgical precision. What kind of weapons are those? Asked Commander Zelk, watching from a coalition cruiser. Graviton disruptors, said Kelly Wright, who was aboard as a liaison. They temporarily distort local gravity fields. They disable rather than destroy when possible. The battle raged for hours. The human ships moved with coordination that seemed impossible, covering each other's weaknesses and enhancing each other's strengths. Coalition forces followed human tactical guidance, working together in new ways. When a coalition ship was heavily damaged, human vessels rushed to protect it, often taking damage themselves rather than letting their allies be destroyed. This behavior shocked the hegemony forces, who were used to seeing every species fight only for its own survival. By the end of the day, the hegemony forces at Nexus Point had been defeated. It was their first major loss since they began expanding their empire decades ago. As surviving hegemony ships retreated, they carried with them stories of the humans, stories that spread fear throughout their empire. The legend of humanity was now being written anew, not in ancient texts but in the stars themselves, with fire and compassion in equal measure. The victory at Nexus Point changed everything. For the first time in decades, the Void hegemony was on the defensive. Now was the time for the combined human and coalition forces to push deeper into hegemony territory. Admiral Sam Hill arrived from Earth to take command of the expanding fleet. He was older than most active commanders, with white hair and a face that showed years of experience. He met with Admiral Ross, Commander Carter, and the coalition leaders to plan their next moves. We need to strike at multiple targets simultaneously, Admiral Hill explained. The hegemony expects us to follow up our victory with a single massive attack. Instead, we'll split our forces and hit them where they're vulnerable. Commander Laura White stepped forward with a detailed battle plan displayed on the holographic projector. She was known among humans as a tactical genius. The coalition officers listened with growing admiration as she outlined a complex strategy that used the strengths of each species in the alliance. The Araxians' sensor technology can detect hegemony ships at extreme ranges, she said. The vector vessels are the most maneuverable, and human ships have the strongest weapons and defenses. Together, we can create a force that's more powerful than any of us alone. The plan was approved, and the counteroffensive began. 5 separate battle groups, each containing both human and coalition ships, attacked key hegemony strongholds. The enemy was caught off guard by this approach, unable to concentrate their forces effectively. As the military campaign progressed, humans showed another skill that surprised the coalition species: diplomacy. Chief negotiator Paul Bennett traveled to worlds that had been conquered by the hegemony. He was a gentle-looking man with kind eyes that made people trust him instantly. On the planet Corvus, Paul met with leaders of the subjugated local species. The hegemony rules through fear, he told them. We offer partnership based on mutual respect. The Corvisian leader, a tall creature with 4 arms, looked skeptical. Why should we trust you? You are just another powerful species from beyond our stars. Paul smiled. Because unlike the hegemony, we don't demand your obedience. We ask for your friendship. Join us, and when this war is over, your world will be free to govern itself again. One by one, hegemony-controlled worlds began to rebel, inspired by human promises of freedom and self-rule. This created chaos behind enemy lines, further weakening their military response. After 2 months of fighting, the combined fleet approached Voltar, the hegemony throne world. This would be the final battle, but it would also be the hardest. The hegemony had gathered its remaining ships in a desperate defense of their home. The human ship Invincible led the attack, with Captain Nelson commanding. As they moved into the system, the hegemony sprung a trap. Hidden weapons platforms activated, firing energy webs that ensnared several ships. The attack faltered as vessels became immobilized. We're caught in some kind of energy net, reported Susan Lee. Engines are failing. Weapons are offline. Captain Nelson contacted Chief Engineer Dan Martinez. We need a solution, Dan. Fast. Dan was already working frantically with his team. Captain, we could modify our drive system to create an energy pulse that might disrupt their nets. But it's risky. It could damage our own systems. How long would it take? Asked Captain Nelson. 3 days, working around the clock, said Dan. You have 12 hours, replied the captain. The fleet is counting on us. Dan and his team worked without rest, making adjustments to the Invincible's main drive. Coalition engineers watched in amazement as the humans improvised solutions using parts and technologies that were never designed to work together. After 11 hours, Dan called the bridge. It's ready, Captain. But I should warn you, this is completely untested. It might work, or it might blow us all up. Captain Nelson nodded. Sometimes the difference between victory and defeat is being willing to take the risk that your enemy won't. Activate the pulse. The Invincible's engines glowed bright blue, then white, then a blinding purple as energy built up within them. The entire ship shuddered as Dan released the pulse. A wave of energy spread outward from the ship, disrupting the hegemony energy nets. The trapped vessels were suddenly free, including several coalition ships that had been caught in the ambush. All ships resumed the attack, ordered Captain Nelson as weapons came back online. The path to Voltar is open. The battle for Voltar lasted 3 days. The hegemony fought with desperate fury to defend their home world. But the combined human and coalition fleet pressed forward, step by step, until they reached the planet itself. The 3 Titan-class dreadnoughts led by Admiral Ross formed a triangle around the hegemony capital city. Their massive forms hung in the sky, visible from the ground, a clear message to the hegemony leaders. This is Admiral Julie Ross of the Earth Fleet. She broadcast to the planet below. Your military forces have been defeated. Your conquered worlds have rebelled. Your empire is finished. Surrender now, and no more lives need to be lost." After hours of silence, the Hegemony Supreme Commander responded, "We will discuss terms." 2 weeks later, Commander Liz Carter stood in the Great Hall of the Coalition Council. Representatives from all 12 coalition species were present, along with delegates from the formerly conquered worlds. Admiral Hill and other human leaders stood nearby. Even a small group of hegemony officials attended, no longer as conquerors but as equals seeking peace. "Today marks a new beginning," Liz said to the assembled crowd. "The Void Hegemony has agreed to release all conquered worlds and reduce their military forces. A new alliance will replace the old coalition, one where all species have equal voice." High Counselor Vrennick stepped forward. "We propose that this new organization be called the Interstellar Alliance, and we nominate humanity to lead the Council of Species." Liz shook her head. "Humans didn't return to the galactic stage to rule over others. We came because we remembered a debt from long ago. The alliance should be led by all species together, each contributing their unique strengths." The new Interstellar Alliance was formed that day. Treaties were signed, and plans were made to rebuild worlds damaged by the war. Human ships began to appear throughout Alliance space, no longer just as warships but as traders, explorers, and diplomats. 6 months after the Battle of Voltar, Liz Carter, now ambassador to the Alliance, visited a small school on an Araxian colony world. Children of various species played together in the schoolyard. She noticed they were playing a game called Humans and Hegemony, where some children pretended to be the legendary warriors from Earth. An old Araxian teacher approached her. "I remember when I first heard the stories of humans as a child," he said. "Giant beings who could breathe fire and lift mountains. I thought they were just tales to frighten children into behaving." Liz smiled. "We can't breathe fire, and we can't lift mountains." "No," agreed the teacher. "But what you did was more impressive than any legend. You came back when we needed you most. You fought for people you didn't know. And when you won, you didn't conquer, you unified." Later that day, Liz sent a message to Earth. Integration proceeding well. Alliance stability at 87%. Request permission to establish permanent human embassy on 12 core worlds. The response came quickly from Admiral Hill. Permission granted. Earth Council has approved immigration protocols. Alliance species may now visit Earth with proper documentation. The isolation is officially over. As Liz read this message, she looked out at the stars from her office window. For centuries, humanity had hidden itself away, building its strength, watching the galaxy from afar. Now they had returned to a place that had forgotten them, except in stories and legends. But the real humans had proven more remarkable than any myth. They had brought their contradictions with them. Their capacity for both violence and compassion, their drive to compete, and their desire to protect, their independent spirit, and their need for connection. On 1,000 worlds, new stories were being told about humans. But these weren't legends anymore. They were history, being written one day at a time as humanity took its place among the stars. And these stories would never again be forgotten.